"You're the reason this family is messed up," my brother shouted. Then my dad said things were better before I came back. I didn't say anything, I just left. That same morning, I blocked them all. By noon, I had 22 missed calls and one voicemail that changed everything. I had been gone for 6 years. Not on vacation or for work, I left because I felt trapped by pressure, guilt, and always feeling like I didn't belong in my own home. So at 21, I packed my things, moved to another state, and started a life on my own. No one really kept in touch, not for birthdays or holidays, so I stopped hoping they would. Then Mom got really sick, the kind of sickness that makes you feel guilty no matter what. So I came back. I thought maybe things had changed, maybe time had healed the wounds. I was wrong. From the moment I walked through the door, the air was different. My brother David barely looked at me. My dad gave me one of those cold nods, acknowledging me like a stranger in an elevator. The house was the same, but I wasn't welcome in it, and they didn't bother to hide it. It started small, passive comments about how I left when it got hard, how I missed the real work. But I was the one taking Mom to her appointments now. I was the one driving her to chemo at 6 a.m., sitting in the waiting rooms, getting groceries when she was too tired to stand. David showed up on weekends long enough to eat, check his phone, and disappear again. Dad sat in his den watching the news, grunting now and then, like he was doing us a favor by staying awake. Still, I kept quiet. I didn't want to fight, I just wanted to do right by Mom. Then came the family dinner. Mom was too sick to join, so it was just the three of us. The tension sat heavy like a fourth guest at the table. David picked at his food and finally tossed down his fork. "You're the reason this family's broken," he said, just like that, like a judge handing down a sentence. I didn't react. I'd learned not to. Dad looked at me like I was some unwelcome stain on the wallpaper and muttered, "Things were better before you came back," like my presence was a disease. I didn't finish my plate. I didn't scream or slam doors, I just stood, walked upstairs, packed the few things I had brought back with me, and walked out without another word. I blocked them all that morning. No texts, no calls, no more swallowing bitterness just to keep the peace. By noon, my phone showed 22 missed calls and a single voicemail. That voicemail was going to change everything. I stared at the screen like it had something else to say. 22 missed calls, all from Dad and David, and one voicemail, no texts. That alone was strange. They weren't the apologizing type. My thumb hovered for a second before I hit play. It was David's voice, tight, panicked, not the usual smug tone he wore like cologne. He said something about the bank, about money, about accounts being locked. Then his voice cracked, and for the first time in years, I heard something unfamiliar in his voice, fear. That voicemail was less than 30 seconds long, but it said everything. They needed me, and not emotionally, financially. See, they thought I left 6 years ago with nothing, that I ran from the mess and probably ended up in some tiny apartment, paycheck to paycheck. What they didn't know was that I built something. I started coding when I was 14. By the time I moved away, I had already developed 2 back-end systems that later got bought out by mid-tier tech firms. Not massive money, but enough to get started. I used that money wisely. No flashy cars, no big moves, just quiet growth. I started consulting, then built my own firm. Nothing huge, but profitable and stable. I had 3 employees, steady contracts, and enough investments to never need anyone's help again. 3 years ago, when Mom called me crying because the mortgage was in trouble, I helped, quietly, anonymously. I funneled funds through a shared account she had access to. When David lost his job and suddenly came into money, he never knew it came from me. Dad's mysterious loan approval for the car he couldn't afford, that was me. 2. I kept them afloat, not out of loyalty, but because I didn't want Mom to suffer from their recklessness. But when I came back, they didn't see a savior, they saw a scapegoat. And now that I'd walked away and blocked them, they finally realized how much they'd leaned on me. The shared accounts I once set up, the ones with direct access to certain funds I used to stabilize things behind the scenes, were all under my name, all tied to my identity. The moment I walked, I transferred the balance out and locked them, and now they were drowning. I took a breath, replayed the voicemail once more, and let it sink in. This wasn't an apology, it was desperation. They didn't want me back, they wanted access, and that meant they were about to learn what it felt like to truly be left behind. I didn't respond to the voicemail. Instead, I poured a coffee, sat at my desk, opened my laptop, and logged into the financial control panel I hadn't touched in almost a year. My name was still listed on every shared asset they never bothered to remove me from. They didn't think they needed to. I was the dependable one, the quiet one, the loser who had left, who came back to help, and who, in their eyes, owed them the house they lived in. My name was on the deed. I'd refinanced it under my company's umbrella after their payments fell months behind, just to stop the foreclosure. They didn't know that the fine print of the refinance had made me the primary title holder. Mom had known. She signed it when I sent her the papers. I never asked why she didn't tell them. I opened the property portal and submitted the first action, freeze any transfer or sale. Then I filed the foreclosure proceedings through my LLC. It wouldn't hit for at least 60 days, but when it did, they'd be served with papers. I made a note to redirect all notices to my business P.O. box. Next, I went to the car, Dad's new SUV, the one he bragged about constantly. It was technically leased through my firm. He hadn't made a payment in 2 months, and I had let it slide. Now I reported it as delinquent. Repossession was automatic. He'd come outside one day soon, open his hand, and find nothing in the driveway. Then came the final nail, David's startup, or rather the ghost of one. 2 years ago, he'd roped Mom into co-signing a business loan. When the payments defaulted, I paid them off to protect her credit, quietly, of course, but in doing so, the collection agency legally reassigned the debt and any potential assets to me. There weren't many, just a warehouse lease and a few pieces of old equipment, but now they were mine. I listed them for liquidation. It was barely worth the effort, but it wasn't about the money. It was about the message. I had stayed silent long enough. By late afternoon, I had cleaned house. Everything they'd quietly leaned on me for was severed. Every safety net I provided burned. The silence on my phone turned loud. They were still blocked, but I could feel the noise on the other end, the panic, the confusion, the first cracks forming. Good, because this was just the start. It started with a neighbor's Facebook post, a photo of a tow truck hauling away a black SUV, Dad's pride and joy. The caption read something like, "Hope everything's okay over there," with a string of half-concerned, half-nosy comments underneath. I didn't reply. I just watched. By midweek, a public notice showed up online for closure proceedings initiated on the house. It wasn't on the front lawn yet, but the notice was official, legal, unavoidable. They'd get the paperwork within days. And David, he went online, too, but not quietly. His LinkedIn update was a pathetic cry for connections, blaming unexpected financial sabotage for the sudden shutdown of his company. I didn't have to do a thing. His followers started asking questions. His old investors saw the writing on the wall. One by one, the few bridges he hadn't burned were turning to ash. Then the calls started, blocked numbers, voicemails I never listened to, emails flooded my inbox, Dad demanding explanations, David fuming with accusations, both scrambling to understand how everything unraveled so quickly. The rage was predictable, the desperation almost comical. I hadn't taken anything they'd built. I had simply taken back what I gave, and it turned out they had nothing without me. Mom was the only person I felt a twinge of guilt about, not for what I did, but for the fact that she was caught in it. But she was also the only one who had ever shown me kindness, the only one who knew I was behind their stability, who signed those papers when I refinanced the house, who looked me in the eyes during her treatments and said thank you with more weight than the words could hold. I sent her a private letter, no return address, just a simple message, "You always knew. I hope you understand why I had to do this. You deserve better. I hope this gives you a chance to finally get it." Included was a prepaid debit card enough to get her out and somewhere safe, somewhere far from them. By the end of the week, I heard from a friend still in town that she'd quietly moved in with her sister across the state. Good, the storm was here, and for once, I wasn't the one standing in the rain. It was a Friday morning when the final move clicked into place. I had waited weeks letting them squirm. Their house, my house, had a sale date set. The SUV was long gone. David's startup website had vanished from search engines. They had gone silent, at least online. But I wasn't done, not yet. My last step wasn't about the money. It was about the truth. 6 years ago, I didn't leave because I couldn't handle things. I left because I uncovered the truth behind Mom's sudden debt, the family's financial spiral, and my own drained college fund. It wasn't a market crash. It wasn't bad luck. It was David and Dad. They gambled it away, literal gambling. A string of bad nights at casinos across 3 states. And when Mom cried at my confrontation, they blamed me, said I was too expensive, that I shouldn't have gone to college if I couldn't pay for it myself. They rewrote the story over the years. Told friends and family I'd abandoned them, that I was selfish, that I didn't care, so I made sure the truth came out. I gathered every bank statement, every wire transfer I had made, every document signed. I attached screenshots, official records, legal proof, wrapped it in a clean, detailed letter that explained everything, how I supported them when I walked away, why I took it all back, and I sent it to every relative, every family friend, every community group they belonged to, even Dad's church board, where he'd paraded around like some model of discipline and wisdom, even David's old high school alumni newsletter. I didn't accuse, I just showed receipts. The fallout was immediate. I heard from a cousin who said the family WhatsApp group exploded. Apparently, Dad tried to spin it, claiming I forged documents, but the dates didn't lie, the legal stamps didn't lie, my silence for all those years didn't lie. A week later, they got a real knock at the door, not a warning, but an official notice. A court officer handed them a paper. They had 48 hours to leave the house. It was being sold. No second chances, no delays. It was happening for real. That same day, someone posted a photo on a local Facebook group. It showed Dad and David standing in the driveway with boxes at their feet. They had no car, no house keys, just two men who once looked down on me, now completely exposed, broke, and embarrassed. I looked at that photo for a long time, not because I felt proud, but because, finally, I felt free. They had spent years blaming me. Now, there was no one left to blame, and I didn't need to say a word. If you like this story and want to hear more powerful, real-life revenge stories, make sure to hit the subscribe button. We're on our way to 1,000 subscribers, and your support means everything. Join the community, leave a comment, and help us grow one story at a time.